The market on the alien world of Zerion 3 was full of noise. Creatures from every corner of the galaxy shouted, traded, and laughed. Strange smells filled the air. In the center of it all, under a hot orange sun, was a cage made of dark metal. Inside the cage sat a girl. She was young. Her skin was pale and bruised. Her clothes were thin, torn, barely covering her. Her wrists and ankles were locked in glowing chains. The chains hummed softly. Her head was low, but her eyes, those golden eyes, watched everything. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just waited. The merchants called her the Silent Show. They said she was mute, that she was a rare breed from a lost world. People walked by to stare at her. Some laughed. Others made cruel jokes. But none of them saw the truth in her eyes. Something was hidden deep inside her. Something powerful. That day, a human man named Jackson walked through the market. He wasn't rich. He wasn't strong. He had come to find work, maybe fix ships, or deliver supplies. He didn't care about shows or slaves. But then he saw her Dot. At first, he thought she was just another display. But as he passed the cage, she lifted her head. Their eyes met. His breath caught. There was something, not human, not alien, but something ancient and sad in her look. Then she spoke. Just one sentence. Claim me, or I'll suffer here forever. Her voice was soft, broken, like it hadn't been used in years. No one else seemed to hear it. The merchant beside the cage laughed and slapped the bars. You like her, human? She's beautiful, yes, but she's not much use. Doesn't speak. Doesn't fight, but she's fun to look at. For the right price, she's yours. Jackson looked at the girl again. She didn't beg. She didn't move. But he saw it in her eyes, hope, faint but real. He didn't understand why, but he couldn't walk away. How much? Jackson asked. The merchant gave a price. It was high, cruel. Jackson checked his credit chip. He had enough for maybe a month of food and fuel. If he bought her, he'd have nothing left. He hesitated. She's not worth it, the merchant said with a shrug. But she's pretty, no? Jackson looked again. She was dirty, thin, and bruised, but beautiful, not just on the outside. There was something more, something hidden. He gave the merchant his chip. People nearby laughed. One alien spat on the ground. Another fool human. Someone said, The chains clicked open. The merchant threw him a key and walked away, still laughing. Jackson stepped inside the cage and held out his hand. The girl didn't move at first. Then, slowly, she stood. Her legs shook. She placed her hand in his Dot. Her skin was cold. Her fingers were thin, but her grip was strong. They walked together through the market. Everyone stared. Some shouted. Some called her names. But no one stopped them. She didn't speak. She just walked beside him. Once they were away from the crowd, Jackson turned to her. What's your name? She looked up at him, eyes shining under the dusty light. She opened her mouth, but then closed it. Instead, she pointed ahead. To where? He asked Dot. She only said, away. He didn't ask more. They kept walking. But just before they reached the edge of the city, she froze. Her body stiffened. Her eyes widened. Jackson turned quickly behind them. A small shadow moved through the market crowd. Following them, Dot, she gripped his arm and whispered, They're coming. Who? He asked Dot. She didn't answer. But her voice was sharp now, not broken-like. Before. She was afraid, but something else too angry. We need to leave now, she said. Jackson nodded and picked up his pace. As they reached his old ship, she stopped again and looked back at the market. Her voice was low, trembling, but full of meaning. Thank you for breaking the chains, but some chains are still inside me. And then she stepped into the ship. Jackson followed, still unsure of what he had done. He only knew one thing: he hadn't saved her. Not yet, but maybe, just maybe, he'd given her a chance to save herself, and maybe that would be enough to change everything. The warning behind her eyes. The ship's doors hissed shut behind them, locking out the noise of the market. Inside, the silence was thick. Jackson guided her through the narrow hallway of his old freighter. The lights flickered weakly. The ship smelled like oil, old metal, and something burnt. It wasn't homey, but it was safe for now. She sat on a crate near the engine room, still silent. Her golden eyes scanned everything, every corner, every sound. She didn't relax, not even for a second. Jackson handed her a blanket and a ration bar. She took them slowly, like she didn't trust them or him. He tried to speak. "You're safe now. No more chains." She looked up at him. Her voice came out, quiet but clear. They weren't just chains. They were locks. "Locks?" Jackson asked, confused. She nodded. "On my strength. On my memory. On what I am. Before." He could ask more. The ship rocked. A loud boom echoed from outside. Jackson rushed to the cockpit. Through the dusty window, he saw smoke rising from the marketplace. Screams echoed through the comms. Something had exploded near the merchant stalls. He turned back to her. She hadn't moved, but her eyes were sharper now, focused. "What happened?" he asked. She stood slowly. "They know I'm gone." "You mean the merchants?" "No," she said. "Something worse. The ones who put me there." She walked past him to the control panel and tapped the screen like she had done it 100 times before. She moved with speed and knowledge Jackson didn't expect. Alien script blinked to life. The screen showed a red blinking dot moving toward them. "They're tracking me." Jackson's mouth went dry. "How? You were chained, powerless." She turned to him, her face serious. "I was chained so I wouldn't destroy them." A cold silence filled the ship. Jackson didn't know what to believe. She looked fragile, too weak to walk properly a few hours ago. But now she was different. Stronger, focused, and something deep in her voice made him listen. "We need to leave this system," she said. Jackson sat in the pilot's seat, hands shaking slightly. "This ship's old. If they have warships, we're dead." "They won't use ships," she replied. "They'll send hunters, silent ones, trained to kill without being seen." Jackson looked at her. "Why you? Who are you really?" She sat beside him, eyes still locked on the screen. "I don't know everything, not yet, but I remember pain. Training, a place with no sun. I was taken from my world young. They said I was dangerous, so they made me into something else, something they could use. But when I refused, they sold me." Her fists clenched. "You said the chains were locks," Jackson said carefully. "What happens if they're all gone?" She looked at him, and for the first time he saw it: real fear. "Then I won't be me anymore." Another warning alarm beeped. "They've landed," she said. Jackson's heart pounded. "Weapons?" She walked to the storage panel, opened it, and pulled out a pulse rifle. "I'll hold them off." "You start the engines." He grabbed her wrist. "Wait, you just got out." "You're not ready." She looked him in the eye. "You broke the chains. Now let me break what's coming." Then she walked down the hallway, barefoot, thin, still healing but unstoppable. Jackson sat in the pilot's chair, started the engine sequence, and whispered to himself, "What have I brought onto my ship?" Outside, something landed silently. On the dirt. Inside, the girl who had once been just a display was finally free to fight. And soon, the ones who chained her would learn what a terrible mistake they had made. Not just a slave girl. The sky behind them turned red as Jackson's ship soared away from the burning market. Flames licked the clouds. From orbit, it looked like the planet was bleeding. Jackson stared out the window, breathing hard, hands still gripping the controls. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a soldier. But he had just stolen something or someone that powerful people wanted back. She sat quietly behind him, not crying, not speaking, just watching. When they reached deep space, far from the trade routes, Jackson set the ship on autopilot. He turned to her. "We're safe for now." "No one is ever safe," she said. Her voice was flat, not afraid, but certain. Jackson rubbed his forehead. "You need to start explaining." "I risked everything to get you out." She finally looked at him. "You didn't rescue me. You moved me." "From what? A cage?" "From one trap to another, but now at least I can think." She stood and walked slowly to the storage unit. Jackson didn't stop her. She opened a drawer, took out a datapad, and turned it on. To his surprise, she started typing commands. The screen changed into deep layer encryption, something only elite spies or military use. Jackson blinked. "Where did you learn that?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she brought up a glowing image of a distant moon. "They trained me there. I don't remember all of it, only pain and code. They said I wasn't born, I was made." Jackson frowned. "You said you were. From a lost world." "A rare kind," she nodded. "That's what they tell the buyers. But I'm not rare because I'm beautiful or different. I'm rare because I survived what no one else could." She tapped a point on the screen. "This moon." It was a lab. Underground. Cold. I don't remember my real name, only the number they gave me. Subject 11. Jackson swallowed. He suddenly felt like he was sitting across from something more than just a girl. They fed me chemicals, put machines in my veins, made me fight older children. Some never woke up. I did. She paused, then whispered. That's when the chains came. Jackson stepped back. "What kind of weapon are you?" She turned her head slowly. "One that doesn't want to be used anymore." Silence fell between them. "I escaped once," she continued. "I tried to hide. I lived on a mining colony. I even smiled there. But they found me. I didn't fight because I was tired. They locked me up again and sold me to the merchants for fun. They thought I was broken, but they forgot something." Jackson leaned forward. "What?" "I was only sleeping." Suddenly, alarms blared again. Jackson rushed to the console. "We've got company. One ship, small, fast. It's matching our course." She came beside him. "Let me see." He moved aside. She studied the pattern. Not pirates, not bounty hunters. Then who? She turned to him with ice in her voice. "The ones who made me." Jackson's hands trembled. "We can't outrun them? No, but I can face them. I remember what they taught me, and I remember how to stop them." He looked at her thin arms, bruised face, haunted eyes, and still didn't understand how she could face trained killers. She walked to the back of the ship, opened a hidden panel, and pulled out something glowing. Jackson had never seen it before. "What is that?" She held it up. "Something they left in me." The object shimmered, half machine, half organic. It pulsed with her heartbeat. "If they take me again, they'll use me to hurt more people. I won't let that happen." Jackson stepped forward. "You don't have to do this alone." She smiled for the first time, just a little. "I know. That's why I let you buy me." He blinked. "You let me?" She nodded. "I was waiting for someone who still had a heart." The ship trembled as the enemy craft locked onto them. She looked toward the sound, calm now. "They're here. Let's end this." Jackson followed her to the weapons bay, no longer seeing a slave girl. He saw a survivor. He saw a fighter, and he knew. She wasn't done yet. The chains were suppressing her power. The enemy ship drifted behind them in complete silence. No warnings. No messages. It was sleek, black, and nearly invisible against the void, like a shadow carved from the stars. but she felt it. Even before the scanners picked it up, she knew it was there. It wasn't chasing them. It was hunting them. Jackson turned off all power systems, letting the ship float cold and dark. "Maybe they'll pass us," he whispered. "No," she replied softly. "They're not looking for the ship. They're looking for me." She stood up, unsteady at first, her thin legs still recovering. Jackson tried to guide her, but she shook her head. No more cages. No more chains. They moved to the lower deck, where a long-forgotten escape pod remained docked. She opened it with surprising ease, revealing a hidden passage beneath the floor. Jackson looked at her, confused. "You knew this was here?" She nodded. "They trained me in ships like this. Every system, every hatch, every place to hide." They climbed down into the passage, where the lights flickered dimly. At the end was a sealed door with ancient human markings, military grade. Jackson had never noticed it before. She placed her hand on the scanner, and the door opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a small chamber. The walls were lined with old tech, dormant crystals, and glowing circuits. Jackson stepped in slowly, eyes wide. "What is this place?" "A vault," she said, "built for me, before I ran." In the center stood a circular platform. Strange. Symbols glowed faintly as she stepped onto it. She closed her eyes, raised her hands, and let out a slow breath. Suddenly, her body tensed. A shock wave of invisible force pulsed through the room. Jackson stumbled back, heart pounding. Her scars lit up like fire. Her eyes burned golden. The air grew heavy. Jackson shouted, "What's happening to you?" She clenched her fists. The chains weren't just physical. They held my mind, my strength, my identity. Every time I fought back, they tightened. But now they're gone. She screamed, not in pain, but in release. The glow around her grew blinding. The crystals on the walls cracked. Sparks rained down from the ceiling. Then silence. She fell to her knees, breathing hard, sweat running down her face. Jackson rushed to her. "Are you okay?" She looked up, and something had changed. Her voice was steadier, stronger. "For the first time, I think I am." Jackson helped her up. "What did you do?" I reconnected. "To what?" She touched her chest. "To myself." She walked to the control panel and placed her hand on it again. This time, the ship's lights surged back to life. Systems she had never touched before responded to her like an old friend. The ship wasn't hers, but it recognized her. Jackson stared. "You're not human, are you?" "I was once, but the experiments changed that." She turned to him, face calm but serious. "I don't know everything they put inside me. But I know this, what's inside me isn't just power. It's memory, code, weapons older than this ship. I'm not just a girl who was chained. I was a prototype." Jackson's voice trembled. "For what?" She looked toward the ceiling, where the hunter ship waited. "For war." Outside, the enemy ship began to move again. It didn't fire. It didn't speak. It simply scanned once more and adjusted course. It was coming straight for them. She stared at the blinking light on the radar. "They've found me." Jackson reached for the ship's manual override. "We can still run." "No," she said. "If I keep running, I'll never stop. If I face them now, they'll learn I'm not their weapon anymore." Jackson grabbed her shoulder. "You don't have to prove anything to them." She shook her head. "It's not for them. It's for me." Then she looked at him, voice soft. "Thank you for seeing me. Not the chains, not the pain. Just me." He nodded slowly, heart pounding. Outside, the enemy ship began docking. Inside, the girl who once had no name stood tall. She wasn't chained anymore. And this time, she wouldn't be silent. The hunters arrive. The ship's hull vibrated with a deep, quiet hum like a predator growling before the kill. Outside, The black hunter vessel locked into place, its docking arms sliding out like cold metal fingers. No lights, no sound. Just shadows moving with deadly precision. Jackson stood by the hatch, pulse rifle shaking in his hands. He had never seen battle. He fixed ships, not fought wars. "We should run," he said, his voice dry. "No," she whispered. "They'll follow me to the ends of the stars. If I run, others will suffer. This ends now." She walked past him toward the Tivadhi hatch, barefoot, hair still tangled, frame still thin, but her presence filled the room. Her golden eyes were focused, glowing softly. The fear was still there, but so was something else. Control. Jackson reached out. "You're not ready." "I wasn't ready when they took me as a child either," she said, "but I survived." "Ah!" Sharp hiss filled the air as the enemy ship's hatch began to open. Cold air poured into the room. Out of the mist stepped three tall figures, armor black as space, visors down, weapons charged. Silent, exact. Like machines made of fleshed out, one of them pointed a scanner at her. It beeped once. Subject 11 confirmed. Reacquisition required. Lethal force authorized if resistance detected. She took one step forward. "I am not your subject anymore." The lead hunter raised his weapon. "You are property of Directive Corps. Stand down." She didn't move. Her fingers stretched slightly, and the floor beneath her shimmered. Then, without a word, she moved. Not like a fighter. Like a storm. Her foot hit the ground, and a shockwave exploded outward. One hunter flew into the wall. The second turned to shoot, but she twisted around his shot, closed the gap, and drove her palm into his chest. His armor cracked. He crumpled out. The last one tried to speak. "Override command. Chainlock initiate." But she was already on him. She grabbed the side of his helmet and screamed. Her voice wasn't human anymore. It was layered, echoing, vibrating, ancient. The hunter dropped, shivering, short-circuiting as his systems collapsed. Silence. The three hunters lay in pieces. Jackson stared. His hands were still gripping the useless rifle. He couldn't move. She turned to him, breathing hard, eyes flickering between light and darkness. "Are you okay?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "You? You didn't even use a weapon." "I am the weapon," she said. She sat down against the wall, suddenly exhausted. Her nose bled slightly. Her hands shook. Jackson rushed to her side. "That cost you something." She nodded. "Every time I use it, I lose pieces of myself." But they would have taken more. He gave her water and knelt beside her. "What did you scream at the last one?" She looked away. "His true name," Jackson blinked. "His what?" "They program the hunters with names only I can speak. If I say it, their mind freezes. It was their fail-safe. A way to keep me in control. But you used it against them." She nodded. "And now they'll know I'm breaking everything." Jackson stood up and looked at the remains. "Will they send more?" She looked at him, her voice hollow. "They won't stop until I'm back in a cage. Or dead." He clenched his fists. "Then let's make sure they regret ever building that cage." She looked at him, surprised. "You'd stay? Fight this with me?" "I didn't buy you," he said. "I freed you. But now, maybe you're the one freeing me." She smiled for the second time since they met. It wasn't forced. It was soft, tired, but real. Outside. The hunter ship floated dead. Inside, the girl who once sat in chains was no longer hiding. She had faced her past. And now, she was ready for war. Her true form awakens. The stars outside the window shimmered like dust across black glass. But deep in the hidden mountains of Keveron 9, the silence was heavy. Jackson's ship sat cloaked among the cliffs, barely powered, hiding beneath the planet's crust. 1,000 meters underground, in an old bunker once lost to time. She stood still at the center of a chamber older than both of them. Jackson walked behind her, his boots echoing on the cold floor. "You said this place would help. Help what, exactly?" She didn't turn around. Her fingers gently hovered above a console made of crystal and bone. "This is where I was born, the second time." He stopped. "You mean the lab?" She shook her head. "No, before the merchants, before the hunters. I was brought here." After the first experiments, I barely remember it. Only flashes, pain, voices, a mirror that didn't reflect me. Jackson stepped closer. The room pulsed faintly strange lights running through the walls like veins. Symbols shifted across the floor, reacting to her presence. "What is this place?" he asked. "A memory bank, a weapon vault, a graveyard, all at once." She placed her palm on the center crystal. It lit up instantly, casting gold light across her face. Suddenly she gasped, her back arched, her hands trembled. The air thickened. "Are you okay?" Jackson shouted. Her eyes rolled back, and she dropped to her knees. Light poured from her skin, her scars reopening with golden glow. Symbols around the room pulsed faster, matching her heartbeat. Then the ground beneath them shook. "Stop! You're hurting yourself." Jackson tried to reach her, but an energy field stopped him. And then she stood up. Her body was different, taller. Glowing lines ran up her arms like living circuits. Her hair floated slightly, like gravity was bending around her. Her eyes, once soft, now shone like suns. She turned to him, her voice layered with something ancient. "This is my full form. The one they tried to erase." Jackson stared in awe. "You're not just enhanced. You're something else entirely." She nodded. "They called me a prototype, but I was a fragment, a broken piece. Now I'm whole again." She reached into the air, and a long rod formed in her hand, shimmering with heat and memory. Not metal, not machine, something between. The lab built me from alien DNA, human willpower, and forgotten tech. They created a weapon that could choose its own fate, but they feared that freedom. So they caged me. Jackson stepped forward carefully. "You remember everything now?" "Enough to know what I am and what they plan to do." She waved her hand, and a hologram lit up an entire fleet of black ships, thousands strong. The Directive Corps. They weren't just hunting her. They were preparing to enslave others like her. She wasn't the only one they had touched. "They're going to activate the next phase," she said. "And when they do, the galaxy will burn." Jackson's hands balled into fists. "Then let's stop him." She looked at him. "You'll need to do more than fly. I need your mind, your trust, your strength." He nodded. "I already gave you my last credits. Might as well give you everything else." She smiled, but it wasn't the broken smile of a prisoner. It was the calm confidence of something ancient returning to the fight. Then she whispered, "Jackson, if I lose control, you have to stop me." He froze. "Why would you? This power wasn't meant for peace. It was born from war. If I forget who I am, promise me." He swallowed hard, heart pounding. Then he nodded. "I promise." She turned back to the console and placed both hands on it. In a flash of light, the mountain chamber responded, opening a hidden vault door. Inside, armor, weapons, blueprints, and data evidence of everything the Directive Corps had done. She stepped through the door, her voice low but full of strength. "The chains are gone. Now let's break theirs." And Jackson followed, because the girl who had once been a slave had become something even the stars might fear. Asterisk, the chains break for everyone. The Directive Corps. Fleet hung above the planet like a curtain of black knives, thousands of ships, waiting in silence, engines pulsing like a beating heart. Down below, the old vault shook from the force of their arrival. Dust fell from the ceiling. Warning lights blinked red, but inside the mountain she stood tall, no longer thin, no longer shaking, no longer afraid. Jackson tightened the last bolt on the control console. The signal's ready. Once you activate it, the truth spreads to every channel across every system. She nodded. They made me their weapon. Now I'll make them a warning. Jackson looked at her. You still have a choice. I already, she said. They turned children into tools. Stripped names, memories, bodies. They buried me under chains so tight I forgot how to breathe. But you reminded me what freedom feels like. Then, as the walls shook harder, a voice echoed from above cold. Mechanical. Inhuman. Subject 11, this is your final notice. Return, or be destroyed along with this world. She stepped forward and pressed her palm to the vault's core. The mountain trembled again, but this time with life. Golden energy erupted upward through the stone like liquid fire. Outside, the cliff split open. The mountain revealed itself not as a hiding place, but as a tower, one built long ago by those who resisted the core's first rise. It had waited centuries for someone like her to awaken it. Above, the flagship moved into firing position. She's exposed, an alien commander sneered. End her. But as the cannons powered up, something stopped them. Every system across. The fleet suddenly blinked. A signal dot played across every screen. Every helmet, every ship. Recordings from the vault of chained children, genetic torture, forced obedience. Faces of those who had been turned into nothing, the truth. And then her voice, I was your weapon. Now I am your end. Let every chain you forged break. Then she rose. Literally. Wings of golden plasma unfolded from her back. Not metal, pure energy. Her body glowed with every memory she had recovered. Not just her pain, but the names of those who didn't survive. They rose with her, and she flew straight into the sky. The fleet fired. Jackson watched from below, breath caught in his chest. Light met darkness. She moved like a storm of justice, tearing through ships not with anger, but with purpose. Her hands split steel. Her eyes blinded targeting systems. She didn't destroy them all. She broke only what was needed. Command cores, control bridges, the chains, the directive. Core ships started turning away, some shut down mid-air. Others drifted without control. A final broadcast echoed from her body, sent on every open frequency. If you chain the innocent, you will answer to those you tried to silence. And then, silence. The fleet retreated. The sky cleared. She floated down, burned, exhausted, smoke rising from her body. Jackson caught her in his arms as she collapsed. You did it, he whispered. She opened her eyes barely. We did. Days later, in a new spaceport, refugees freed from the core watched her walk by not chained, not guarded, free. Some touched their own wrists, remembering what chains felt like. Others bowed. But she didn't want that. She walked. Among them, like one of them, because she was, later, sitting beside Jackson under the stars, she whispered, I don't know what happens next. He smiled. Maybe that's the best part. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and far above, the stars watched as the girl once made to be a weapon became a spark for freedom. Every chain has a sound when it breaks. The galaxy had finally heard hers.